Hello, this is Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul. Oh my gosh. Oh, no, to hopefully inspire you on your journey. Oh my gosh, no, stop. Or at the very least, provide you with some laughs. And so let's get real. Not about the fact that this dog is trying to lick my face. But let's get real about creative inspiration. Oh my goodness. Now, there are people out there who are just like, I'm not a creative person. I'm just not creative. I just don't know. I don't know if I believe that there's no such thing as a creative person. Now, you might be someone watching this going, I am not a creative person. Why don't you believe me, Ray? Oh my goodness. So, I don't believe you. I mean, I believe that you feel you're not creative, but then I would say to you, hey, the term creative is a bit relative. And so what do you define as creative? And I'd probably just ask you a whole bunch of series of questions until we ultimately came on something where I was like, see, that in and of itself is creative. Now, I remember saying to some friends, the artists, the painters, oh, wow, you're so creative. Like, I wish I could do art like that. And then they proceeded to heap upon me, oh, what do you mean? You are an artist. You are creative, and on and on and on. I was kind of like, yeah, but that, what? Huh? Okay, because I did not mean I am not capable of doing what you do and seeing the world through the lens that you see it, and henceforth, because I'm not capable of these things, I do not have a creative bone in my body, or I do not create art. Like, that's not what I meant at all. I create lots of different types of art, and I love what I create. I'm not a painter. If I want to study the skill of painting and then let my creativity be expressed through painting, then that would be a different story. But it was just, my compliment was, I appreciate what you do. I think it's really quite unique. And my brain doesn't work like that. Like the way you see the world, in order to create that image, my brain would not coming up with that. Maybe over time it could come up with something similar, but probably not. And that's okay. It's okay to have something that is unique. Oh my goodness, hold on. It's okay to have something that's unique to your imagination, your view. We can also say with interpreting data. Data, in a sense, is very concrete and scientific. But even the interpretation of that data can, at times, leave room for various interpretations. And so, I kind of want to say that, is it fair to say that it takes some creativity in order to come up with the interpretation that you come up with? Maybe not necessarily creativity, but it is something that is definitely unique to each individual. Okay. And yes, you can have one interpretation and someone else can have the similar interpretation. You can have the same view. All right. I don't know why this dog is going crazy right now. Okay. So, all that said to say, I have been working on a new course, and it's a course that I've had planned for quite some time. I was envisioning teaching it one way, but I'm like, ooh, I don't see how it's going to be interesting. I need to teach it a different way. I'm a little vague right now. Hang on for a second. So the course that I created, I was going to teach it as a live class, but I want to have more digital content. So instead of doing it as a live class, I've decided I'm going to do it as an on-demand course. Now, with live, you can engage students in terms of if you feel like you're talking too much, you can ask them a question, have them respond, and just have that back and forth in and of itself be something that keeps students engaged. But when it's on demand and it's a topic that they might not really want to talk about, then you have to really think about, well, how am I going to make sure that the listener, the watcher, the student not only hears the information but understands the information, comprehends the information, and can remember this information. Ooh, that's a lot. And so, traditionally in schools, we use tests. That's what teachers have been doing for decades, is using tests in order for, can I say centuries? Possibly. In order to show that students remember whatever it is they were working on. Now, we all know that over time, students got really good at passing tests by simply cramming and memorizing what they need for the test, and then as soon as that activity is done, their memory releases whatever it was they were supposed to remember. They completely forget it. However, there's also gamification. When you look at apps like Duolingo or, language learning apps, gamification keeps people excited and hooked. But in terms of really comprehending and being able to use that information independent of the platform, it takes a lot longer to build a level of understanding and comprehension. And in some cases, when the example of Duolingo, there are some languages where the person may be flying when it comes to using the app, but without the app, they still can't speak the language or understand the language when listening to it. So, gamification, even though it's been touted as the solution for, I'm going to say, about a decade now, gamification, make those classes fun, more games, more fun. I've been through so many professional development workshops where it's like, hey, you teachers, try this new game, put this new game in your class. And it seems like it has an impact until you realize months later that students don't know anything, but they sure like that game. What? So, is there one proper solution? I don't think so. I think you gotta mix things up. I do feel like it's a bit harder to get students to really understand the information today than it was a few years ago. That's my impression. I will say that in the U.S., we're starting to reach a point now where educators are going to have students who have not received any type of education prior to, I was going to say prior to meeting with me, but they haven't. You're going to have some students who haven't received any type of education that did not use digital sources, and that includes students that may not have ever physically felt, touched, held, read a book. That also includes students who may have only been homeschooled and have only lived in an environment where they can pick the exact subject they want to learn about, and their interest in learning is only focused on what they pick. And that can be hard. Like, imagine you went to a restaurant and I don't know why I put this on you. Maybe I should put this on you and a friend. Okay. So imagine going to a restaurant with a friend. And you're excited. This is the new restaurant in town. You can't wait to eat there. and your friend is really excited to eat, but your friend, maybe they're not as culinarily experienced as you are. I don't know what's wrong with this friend. But you guys sit down to order, and your friend gets upset. And it's just like, well, where's the mac and cheese? And you're like, well, you said you were cool with going out for sushi. They don't have mac and cheese here. And your friend was just like, well, hey, I mean, I've had sushi before, but that was at the buffet. And at the buffet, I could have sushi, like California rolls, and I can get mac and cheese. I can't eat here now because they don't have mac and cheese. You're like, what? All right. Why didn't you tell me you want to go out for mac and cheese or something? What? Oh, man. You see, the friend, it's going to be hard to eat with them now, because now you got to be like, okay, guess we're going to leave. Or you go out to eat and, oh, hold on. And imagine inviting said friend to a party. Maybe you found somebody you want to date and you invite them to the holiday party, and then they get upset. Well, why are there just hors d'oeuvres here? Why are there just mini sliders? I expect a full burger. Or they have beef sliders, but I only want pork sliders or tofu sliders or turkey sliders. And now I can't eat. Now my world is horrible and nothing works right. Well, you're going to starve, friends. I don't know what to tell you. Like, the friend has to be a bit responsible for themselves. But when you're dealing with kids, if you've never been exposed to having options be limited, then it can be really hard to adjust to those limitations in the moment. And so it's hard. It's hard to educate and motivate. No, it can be hard to educate, motivate other people. And you might be listening to this going, well, good thing I'm not a teacher. Da, 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 da. Now, if you have ever taken on a mentorship role, or you're thinking of taking on a mentorship role, then this definitely applies to you. But even if you don't feel that you are specifically an educator or mentor, pretty much, I'm going to go out there to say pretty much everyone in life is in a position where something they say or do impacts others. So there we go. Now, why is that important? Well, because when we look at the land of creativity, or rather, everything you do impacts others, right? And if what you do impacts others, there are times when you might feel like the thing that I need to do isn't necessarily the thing that I feel like doing or want to do. And I want it to be just right. And so, I thought I'd record out here because the sun was feeling really good. And I also didn't feel like rearranging furniture in order to make the interior well lit in order to record. I thought, let me just go outside. Such beautiful weather outside. The dog wants to go outside. And we were outside earlier. We're back outside. Earlier was peaceful and quiet. Now I'm hearing sirens and dogs and recycling bins. I'm hearing all kinds of things. But anyway, okay. So, even though you know you need to do something, I guess this all goes into like being an adult, but look, you got to get something done, and you want to serve it in a way that appeals to the majority of people who will be impacted. And keep in mind, we are operating from the assumption that you know that this thing that you're going to do is going to impact or influence others. Yes. And so, when you're dealing with creativity, you can't just be like, ooh, I'm not feeling creative. Ain't going to do it, can't do it. Okay. So, that's the general, right? Now, I'm going to pause that thought for a second. I'm going to tell a little story about a podcast that I was listening to, and then I'm going to come back to where I am with the creativity thing. We're going to get there, peeps. Okay. So my quick little story, I was listening to a podcast. It was like the end of the year wrap up of what's been happening in music. And I really found myself annoyed because the two experts were heaping praise on Lady Gaga for, as they put it, returning to what made her famous, returning to her roots for fans, and having songs that had nonsense lyrics. And I thought, is this a thing? I've heard Lady Gaga songs before, and some of the songs just have random garbage. And I'm like, what is this? But it didn't occur to me that that was possibly a creative choice, which I still don't understand. But then I'm not really like, whatever. Okay. So, they were knocking her for that. Meanwhile, they were praising her for that. Meanwhile, they were knocking Sabrina Carpenter for repeating what they called her shtick. And I gotta just pause this because of the sirens. One sec. And Sabrina Carpenter has funny lyrics in terms of they're not what you expect, and you have the kind of the bad relationship dynamics that are told in humorous stories, where as an adult you're going, that's hilarious. Now as a teen or even a child, I don't know that you get all the jokes, to be fair. But I'm going to assume there's something that younger people see or hear in the songs that might clue them in that this is not how a relationship should be, and there are some jokes here. That's what I'm going to hope. Because I know she has a lot of young fans, and I think her stuff is pretty funny. Okay, so they're saying, oh, Sabrina Carpenter, you're back to the old shtick. I mean, it worked for your first album. Here's your sophomore album, but, you've already done that thing. So why are you doing the same thing? So I don't like your album as much. And I thought, well, that's stupid, because if she did something completely different, which maybe she would have wanted to artistically, then fans would be upset. Like, why are you doing this completely different thing? I loved what you did the first time. And for her to do what she's done before, if that's what she likes, she's being knocked for doing it again. Like, just get over yourself. So I wasn't too thrilled with these reviewers. And then they mentioned Justin Timberlake releasing 2 albums that had a whole heaping bunch of songs. And their take was kind of, it seemed like he just dumped everything on the records and like throwing spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. But he had a good song that wasn't in alignment with what he's normally been doing lately. And so, a different approach, but good on him. Hang on. Let me let this dog. So, these are people working in creative fields. They make their money off being creative. And yet they have to bend over backwards to try to please fans and critics. If critics say your album's horrible, you may still have a chance with your fans, you may not. If critics don't talk about your album, even if critics aren't publishing reviews that people are actually reading or listening to, because the power of the critic has, the professional critic has died down, it could still influence whether or not your creative works are marketed to people, to those fans, right? And if you are working with a big label machine, it could mean that they don't put their weight behind getting the fans to know about your information. Now, with social media, now, of course, if you are not in a field where you're making music and you work for a big machine, then you might be like, Ray, none of this matters. I told you it was going to be a short story before I got back to the other story. So here we go. So I am working on this course, and I decided, I mean, it's been on my to-do list for months, maybe a year, and I just hadn't been able to find a way to teach it that would make it engaging, interesting, and will sell, because I have to make something that's going to sell. And I had a little bit of an idea, like, oh no, all right, maybe I'll do this other thing. Oh no, oh, I should do this. Wait, I have to learn a completely different skill in order to make this happen. Oh, this is so annoying. And then I find myself looking at YouTube videos on how to learn this skill, and then realizing it's going to take way more time to learn the skill and to do what I'm creatively envisioning than it would to just do what I normally do. And what's the right thing to do? Do I do what I normally do, knowing that it may be less engaging, might feel outdated, might not even sell? Or do I spend more time after already spending all this time trying to come up with a perfect idea? Now that I have an idea, I got to figure out, do I spend more time trying to learn the skill for something that still may not sell? Oh my goodness gracious. And so I've been thinking, well, how can I come up with a system for when I'm not feeling that creative? Dun, 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 which is the point of the video. What can you do when you're not feeling creative? Well, of course, one can surround themselves around things that make them feel creative. Also, having mental space in order to create is super important. So I know for me, I'm doing this house sitting thing right now. You've already seen one or two dogs pop on camera in this video. And if I am if I've just come off a day of driving from one house to the next and unloading the car and getting to know the animals and trying to figure out everything around the house, I'm drained, like, for the rest of that day, possibly into the next day. It just takes a while to get reacclimated to a space in one's schedule. And then I also have a schedule where a lot of new activities appear on my schedule. That flexibility has to be there right now in order to make money to get bills paid. And I don't have a sugar daddy or wealthy benefactor. I'm not in a position where I can just financially not do anything other than what I feel like I can put out there creatively. Now, with that being said, there are people out there making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and they feel that pressure to constantly create something in order to keep money coming in. Because if they stop, they might lose their fans, and They might not be able to get back that level of success, recognition, financial success later. And so these are all real problems, you guys. So having good mental space. So one thing you can do to help yourself creatively is to not put pressure on yourself. You also need to stop telling yourself, I'm not creative. You are creative. Okay, so don't put yourself down. Don't get mad at yourself. Allow yourself to have clear mental space. So I don't really know that it's good to force yourself to create when you are feeling drained or tired. But I think we're going to have to put a limit. So let's insert a limit. This is not scientific by any way. I'm going to tell you that right now. But let's put on a limit. So let's say, one thing I liked about Ed Sheeran when he was being interviewed and telling his story was that he made it his focus. I think he had to write a song every single day and perform like 5 gigs a week or something like that. And he tells that he wasn't an overnight success. He just made it his focus to write every single day, even if it was bad, just write. And to go out there and perform regularly. Now, I'm throwing all these musicians at you. You might be like, I'm not a musician. I make quilts. I'm not a musician. I'm a software engineer. I'm not a musician. I'm retired. I'm not a musician. I'm a professional bed tester. Okay. Still applies. Okay. So, we're going to say, don't put yourself down. Don't focus on what you're not as creative as that other person, not doing things the way someone else does them. And allowing yourself to be in a good mental space, but even if you're not in a good mental space, I think the limit we're going to have to say is within a 48-hour period. I really want to say 24 hours, but we're going to say within a 48-hour period, you must create something, even if it's just a stick figure. You created something, right? Now, ideally, you want to create something in the medium that you are wanting to be creative in. So if you bake cakes and you're trying to come up with a new design for a client request and you just like, I don't have any ideas, or you're trying to come up with a new video for your social media in order to get new clients, I don't have any ideas, you can allow yourself to create something. It can be similar to what you've done in the past. You can just write down some ideas, do a little brainstorm. You can look at other people's work for inspiration. I'm going to put a little asterisk there, though, because you don't want to A, just copy people, or B, find yourself a rabbit hole where you're like 3 hours later still looking for information online. Come on. We've been there. We know what that's about when you're watching videos for information and then suddenly you're still watching videos. Don't do it. So, yeah. I do have on my bottom of my to-do list, or like weekly goals. That's what it is. It's a weekly goals. The bottom of my weekly goals list, there's a bunch of things that I have listed that I can do for my no tech hour. And this worked really well for me at the beginning of my using my weekly goals list, like the first 2 months or something. I will say my weekly goals list has been less effective with me moving around so much, because it's like, oh, one more thing to take out of my backpack. But It does work, so I just need to use it more. See, I'm talking it out, right? But one thing I could do in terms of creativity, I function very well with lists, it seems, is have some sort of mind map or document that just kind of guides along the ways of things one can do when creatively stuck. Yes, brainstorming I think is great. Tell my writing students all the time, if you're stuck, either talk it out loud or brainstorm. Don't just sit there in your head being stuck. And as I'm saying this, I'm wondering, why hadn't I done more to get unstuck on this course that I'm creating before? And I think that's actually, as I'm saying that, I realize part of the reason I haven't done more is because I've just been constantly interrupted or distracted by the million and one other things that I have to do in order to make some money. But when business is slow, that's a wonderful time to figure out, okay, so what else can I do? And it's hard because the temptation is to be like, okay, I guess I got to go do some DoorDash or Uber or Amazon Flex or Instacart or something. Got to get that money in. But those are temporary solutions, not long-term solutions. So, and even doing like online English lessons, at times, and I love the students I have. But on times I'm just kind of like, my students are busy, and am I emotionally in a space where I can meet a new student, and I'm ready to meet a new student and focus on their needs and give them what they need. Sometimes that new relationship is great. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I met you. And other times I'm thinking, oh, this lesson's boring. And it doesn't have to be exciting or interesting for me. I'm there to do a job. Or those cases where it's not that the lesson's boring, it's just I don't want to talk to this person. They seem very hostile when I try to give them feedback, and I don't feel like I can do my job. So there's lots of factors at play. So yes, lots of things can disrupt your creativity, make you feel non-creative. But if you want to be more creative or get unstuck, then you need to have a plan for that. Because as a creative, it's going to happen where you're going to be like, I've got no ideas, I'm tapped out. The great thing about the singer who makes a point of writing a song every day is that when you have those times when you need to put out an album or feel like you need to engage with fans, but you just don't have any ideas, you can go back and look at your old work and be like, oh wait, maybe this will work, and be re-inspired. And so I can't help but feel like, well, that must work for an artist too, as you start sketching down an idea. And as well for someone who's a writer, you start writing down an idea. The game creator who starts creating a game and walks away from it and then comes back to it later. And so maybe the solution to working through not feeling creative is also setting up some sort of system where you can capture ideas. So I wonder what mine's going to look like. I kind of like the idea of having a box and then putting like cards inside the box. Oh, that sounds exciting. But I'm also traveling around and most of my stuff is in suitcases. So I am not about to put some box in my suitcase. I already have too much as it is. So I want to know from you. Put it in the comments below. How do you plan on, and remember, the focus is to have a plan. So how do you plan on getting unstuck when you feel somewhat stuck creatively, or you're just not feeling creative? Like you just don't feel like you are a creative human. Because even the way you do whatever it is you do. Maybe you're like a doctor and you have to deal with patients. The way in which you talk to your patients and interact with your patients is completely different than the way someone else does it. And that in and of itself takes some creativity. If you're just a stay-at-home mom, the way in which you make that food, even if you follow the recipe, the plates you choose to serve it on, how you choose to present it to your family, whether you just dump a big old scoop of something in front of somebody, or if you are arranging the plate to look pretty. All these things involve creativity. And so, yeah, if you're feeling stuck on, well, I don't know what to make for dinner, how do you get unstuck? How? Well, remember, you're a good cook. Remember, you're a creative person. You can get unstuck. Talk it out. Try something. Maybe you have a friend or an accountability partner who you can reach out to and say, man, I am stuck. What's going on? And just take your mind off of whatever it is you're supposed to be working on. Or ask them for ideas, or just talk about something completely else, right? I mean, it might not be fair to call up your friend and be like, I've got this class that I need to work on. But I think I've done that where I'm like, oh, I've got this thing that I'm trying to make. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, I just don't know. And I'm like, you try? And then I usually say, no, I did try everything. Why are you talking to me like that? I hate you. Maybe that's why I have no friends. Okay. No, don't tell your friends you hate them. But just know, creativity comes in many different forms. You yourself are a creative person, whether you want to believe it or not. And you deserve to get unstuck. So figure out how you want to figure out what would be your unstuck system. Your unstuck system. For me, it's going to be continuing to talk it out, write it out, and then capture ideas somewhere, someplace. Maybe I just need an old-fashioned journal. I don't know. Well, my friends, I hope you found this helpful. It sure helps me because I'm ready to go back and work on that class right now. And, yeah, I've got a goal to finish that course this week. So thanks for helping me do that. Hey, I'll have to post a follow-up once it's done. Well, until next time, my friends. Peace.